the button anyway, so if you're not ready, tough, because it's on.
James is never ready, so it'll be him that holds us back.
Having a bit.
Exactly.
I've caught the odd person out where, you know, I'll just kind of press the button when they've been in the middle of farting or something like that. You know, press it, you know, here we go. Eric, I better say hello. Good evening, folks. Thanks for coming in. You're all very welcome. We hope you're enjoying your week so far. So tonight we have back Shadow Paranormal, but it's not just the Hat Man down there, who you probably recognise tonight. We have Sophie's over there. Sophie Nash and James down underneath Sophie. And of course you get the Hat Man down here. And I will, you want a pen? You want my pen? Yeah, imagine that, you know, if you went like that and you go out and pull a pen out. I think that'd be...
Got a paintbrush, but...
There's Shani. I don't know how to pronounce it, Shani. And I will start telling you, look, we are live. I was telling Sophie and James about your last visit when I thought we were live and we weren't live.
Yeah.
We were more or less just talking to ourselves.
How long did
The false alarm, yeah.
It was like, it was 7 or, I don't know, 7 or 8. It wasn't long, but
yeah,
it's a long, you know, but we were just
talking.
I done it once actually, a couple of years back. We were doing it. I done it the opposite way around. We'd been on a live, and it was 3 years ago. We hadn't long started, and it was a Halloween kind of live, and we had about 10 people in the panel, and we were just sitting talking. And then after the live had finished, no, obviously we're Scottish, and our language sometimes can be a wee bitty, you know, on the borderline. So I thought we were backstage and we were effing and being and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And as you do. And then I seen the comments still coming up at the side of the screen. And I'm thinking, why are the comments still coming up? And then I looked up and I saw in the corner that we were still live. This was an hour and a half or something. Because with people from America and Alaska and that on. And then I seen the comments and I'm thinking that the comments should not be coming up. And then I thought, we're live and I've been swearing like a nun. Do you know what I mean? That's a good thing about lives. You can do recorded ones, you know, but if you make a mistake, you're back and just do it again. But if you're on a live and you make a boo-boo, then tough, you know. Anyway, it's good to have you back. This is the first time we've met Sophie and James, but we have met Luke twice before, I think. So I'm going to ask Sophie and James, because we all know about Luke, and I'm not going to ask him to say it again, you know, because I've heard it twice, and I really don't want to hear it a third time, to be honest with you.
I won't put you through it again, don't worry.
Thank you. You're a saviour. You're a saviour. So we'll ask Sophie and we'll ask James about how they kind of started and then how they hooked up with the Hat Man and stuff. There's Facebook users on. Hi there, and Phantom Seekers Paranormal. So Sophie, how did your journey start for you?
So I actually met Luke. Well, I met James first. I went to school with James, but I met Luke at college. I think maybe like 2013-ish, maybe 2014. And like the first day I met him, I'd already been on the college course for a little while, so he was like proper newbie, and I tried to make friends with him straight away, and then eventually he just told me, like, you know, that he does this. I think it was with his brother and a couple of his brother's friends, and I was like, oh, actually that sounds really interesting. I'd like to do that. And then I think it was my 18th birthday party, and James was there and Luke was there, and it was like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and Luke and James just split off and went ghost busting on my birthday, and then it sort of just progressed from there, really, like most weekends.
Sarah's in as well. So you were at college and you were trying to make friends. Is that what you said?
Yeah. So I felt a bit sorry for Luke because he seemed a bit shy and a bit quiet.
Because of the hat. Because of the hat, wasn't it?
He wasn't wearing the hat then. He wasn't wearing the hat. But
I don't think I've actually ever seen him without a hat.
He wears glued on now.
Are you bald there at all?
With the hat.
Like Bill Bailey.
Yeah. It's getting there. His hair's attached to the hat, actually.
I'm just starting. I don't think I've ever seen you without your bonnet on, as we say. Hi, Dennis, buddy. So that's how you started out, Sophie.
Yeah.
And have you regretted it ever since, or
Only sometimes when it's cold and miserable.
or you get stuck in a window, which we'll come to.
Yeah, we will come to that.
But
But
no,
no, I look back and I think sometimes that, like, if I hadn't have met Luke, how different my life would have been. So it's been a hell of a journey, but a really good one.
Less traumatic.
Yeah.
I totally get what you're saying. We've said that before as well. If we hadn't started, PIH, how, you wonder what else you would have been doing.
Yeah.
We've been doing this for about 3 years now, just over the 3 years, and the amount of people that we've met.
Yeah.
I was saying that to Jacqueline Dixon the other night on our show. The amount of people that you meet, just doing this, just doing podcasts, and it's people you would never ever imagine meeting. It sounds like boasting, but it's not. But we've had Hollywood actors on, and directors and all the rest of it, authors, historians, and everything. And it's people we would never have met in our day-to-day life if we hadn't started doing this. So it does. It does change your life totally. You get a lot less sleep.
I don't sleep anyway, so it doesn't matter.
You can the same as me. I can 2 hours a night, and then I make coffee when I can't sleep. I know it's totally upside down.
That is actually comes with having ADHD. Caffeine puts you to sleep.
It doesn't put me to sleep. It just keeps me.
Caffeine puts me to sleep. That is it.
I think I'd need to get hit with a bus to get put to sleep, probably. I'm not too sure. So, where were you, James? How did you start out?
Like Sophie said, I was at college at the same time. I think it was the same time as Luke and Sophie. It was just towards the start, the end of when they were there. And like Sophie said, she introduced me to Luke and said that Luke's into sort of paranormal stuff, and Sophie knew that at the time I was doing loads of sort of dark art and sort of weird paintings and stuff like that. So he put me in contact with Luke and said, Luke's into weird stuff as well. You guys would probably get along. So we properly met at that, but at your
it was my 18th birthday. Yeah.
So we met there, and then we went over to not Silk Mill, but the other factory that was in Glemsford at the time to just do a little impromptu
drunk
investigation. We actually had some. I think that was the time we had the weird cough or something that was there, like a disembodied cough, and that was kind of the first time going out investigating somewhere with Luke, and then we had something happen, and that was it, kind of set from there, and that was sort of hooked into it really.
Fantasy sleep patterns are chaotic, especially they are. I don't know about you, but after the investigation, you're wide awake. You're kind of still buzzing, whatever. I'm not talking about feed drugs or anything. I'm just talking about
it fills you with adrenaline and dopamine, and they're all things that stop you from sleeping.
Depending on the investigation as well, you're hoping that it's you're not going to get back, and then it's the activity you had is then carrying on in your house, and so give it a few
there
minutes.
Is a little bit of worry that it's followed you.
I often find the next day afterwards, especially, I'm completely wiped out the next day. But I think that's just because of probably a solid 8 hours of just nothing but concentrating on what's going on around you, and then which you don't even in an 8-hour shift at work or something, you're not that focused for that length of time really. Next day afterwards I'm wiped out.
If you've got entities and stuff, or ghosts, spirits, whatever, if they're trying to feed off your energy in some way, I mean, it makes sense that you're then drained literally of energy afterwards.
That's what I was going to say. Because obviously you're doing an investigation. If you're getting activity, then they could be sort of zapping your energy without you even realising it. But once you get a paranormal experience, it is addictive. It is, I use the word, it's like a drug. Once you get one experience, I want to do that again. I want to get back out and see what happens the next time.
It's the strange thing as well, because we've said before that sometimes doing ghost investigations is almost like fishing, because it's like sometimes you won't get stuff happen, sometimes you will. So it's that thing of like every time you're going out, you never know what you're going to get or the level of what you're going to get. So you never know if you're going out, you might get something really like impressive, really like unexplainable, or you could get nothing. So it's like you get drawn back just to see if it's whatever you're going to get is going to top like the last thing that you got.
But Luke and I were talking about this. It was the last time you were on, Luke, about when you wind up an investigation and you're heading home, and you start thinking, well, would something else have happened if I'd stayed there?
Yeah, always.
It's constantly going through your head, even it might be 4 or 5 in the morning. It's constantly going through your head. But I don't want to leave you out, look. So if you give us a wee brief how you get into the paranormal, because some people probably haven't seen you before, and I don't want you being left out or anything like that.
I'll do a condensed version.
I was going to say, I'm not really sure how you got into it, to be fair. I think you just told me that it was your brother and your brother's mates. I don't really know how it started.
Yeah, well,
less hair at the time.
There's a lot less hair and less hat as well. But let me enlighten you. Yeah, so it's just the subject in general I'd always been interested in for as long as I can remember. I think it was the summer holidays at school. I must have been about 15. Decided to go out. I mean, it's after watching sort of videos on YouTube of teams doing sort of similar stuff to what we do, and saw that anyone can get into this sort of thing. You don't have to sort of have any particular background, and that was sort of what pushed me to go out to a couple of places. And then from that, I sort of started getting interested in filmmaking, and sort of created Shadow Paranormal. For about a year, it was I was doing it with my brother and a couple of other friends. Then, once met Sophie and James, it sort of really took off from there. And it's just been going ever since, really.
The thing that caught my eye, I've seen this to you before, look, about your channel, is that you involve the history in the location as well. You do, no disrespect them, but there are teams out there that just go out, investigate, and you're watching them, you're thinking, right, well, where are you? How long is it, who built the castle, or anything happened there, but use blend the history into it as well, and I think that's the perfect way to do it.
For me, the history is one of the main reasons why I like it.
Hi, Vicky.
Hi, Vicky.
To us, you can't have history without paranormal, and vice versa. History is so, because everybody's we've got history. And the amount of history that's in this country is kind of, amazing, basically. So let's talk. I watched 2 of your videos, so let's talk about them, shall we?
I know one of them.
One of them, man. You know one of them.
Yeah.
Useful to know about. The fandom said that. They're bang on what they're saying. It's happened to us, places like we did Caldwell, and some of the names we get through, we were able to, or the girls were able to look back and verify the names and stuff. So it does help validate what you're getting. So the Hamilton Lodge, abandoned house. Now, do you want to talk about the window first, or do you want to leave that till after?
I'll let Luke decide that one.
We'll go into that after, I think. Okay. We'll do it in the order that we've done the video.
Yeah, let's, because it might take some time to talk about the window, and if anybody's wondering, go to Shadow Paranormal on their YouTube channel and check out the Hamilton Lodge and abandoned house. Watch it, and you'll see what we're going to be. You'll understand where it's coming from. So that was quite. I thought that was quite a good location. But before we come, I watched your video, your video that you done the other day. Look about the issues that you have getting into places, and the weather, and I could totally relate to that because we're the exact same up here. Especially weather.
Worse with the weather, yeah.
Your weather sucks. I've not been able to cut my grass in about 3 weeks. Unbelievable. But however, and the thing about the place has been fenced off, and security guarding it if it's like, you know, the White House and stuff like that. It does make it really, really hard. You had that problem at the Hamilton house, but did you know?
Yeah, we did. So on that video, we couldn't actually investigate the Hamilton Lodge. We ended up where the whole situation with the window arose. We went to another house a couple of weeks later, another location. We found and investigated that, which like it certainly wasn't as impressive as the Hamilton Lodge. I mean, it's weird because these buildings sit derelict for years, and then all of a sudden they'll put security there and fencing and all sorts, but then they'll stay like that for another 2 or 3 years with nothing happening. It just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. But a lot of them as well, I've tried like contacting some of the security firms and stuff, but sort of talking about is it possible to get access or anything like that is, I suppose, if their job's to stop people getting in, there's no way, even if you ask politely. You know, it's it's not easy.
Hamilton Lodge as well was one of the most sort of like fortified places we've been to, probably ever. Like the fact that it had those like automated box things on the door. It seemed like it had guards actually on site patrolling with flashlights, which is when you consider that place is quite out in the middle of nowhere anyway, and it's just falling down. So
I mean,
what they protected.
Yeah, but like the fact that you, Luke, had been there like literally a couple of weeks prior to get day footage and stuff, and then we've gone for the night investigation, and it's like, oh, you can't. So then it's also like a wasted trip.
We tried like alternate ways to get in there because right from the front of it, that was heavily sealed up at the front. We tried looking around the back, and even from the back, it was like you would have to cross over a ditch, then through woods. Then you don't know if once you get through those woods, you're hitting another fence, and then they've got security guards and that bit as well. So it's just like any way that you would try and get to it, it's just going to be completely blocked off. So by the end of the night, I think we've been there like an hour, a couple of hours or so. It's just like there was no way to do it.
No.
It's sometimes there's a place up here in Paisley, which is just outskirts of Glasgow. It's an old hospital, and teams have been in before, and urban explorers and that have been in, and we went up a couple of years ago one day during the day. We're going to go up and have a wee look at this place because it looks amazing to do. You know, it's the kind of place I've always wanted to do. The big abandoned, like that hospital you guys done, and you get kind of zero activity. Places like that, I'd love to do something like that just myself. You know, just take our torch and wander away. And so we went up to this place, and it was boarded up. It was metal screens that were all over the place. The anti-climb paint, anti-climb paint stuff, all the fences, barbed wire, and everything. It was, you know, the Pentagon.
Yeah.
You know? And we were standing. We walked through the place. It was right. How can we get in? You're trying to work it out. You know, you feel like you're trying to break into the Pentagon or something. We were even contemplating getting up a tree, and so we got that tree. We go over that roof. We could shimmy down. They were into the yard. I'd try to break out of prison, you know, into the yard, and then hopefully we'll find a gap. But we gave up. We thought there's no chance of getting into that place. But
it's getting out again after as well.
Yeah.
I noticed you had a little issue there getting out of that particular location. You know,
it wasn't this one, yeah.
Your leg did look, and Vicky, she got kind of stuck. You know, to take my hat off.
Wedged.
Well, my leg. It weren't coming out of that window easy. I think, have a Vaseline next time just to prevent any issues like that reoccurring.
The thing that you guys forget is both of you have got like an extra half a foot in leg length than I have. So you can just literally hang your leg out and you're there. I can't do that. I can't jump either because of my stupid toe. So it's like I have to just kind of slip and hope that I don't get hooked.
Because I was watching it and I'm actually thinking, right, if it was me, how would I handle that? You know, I mean, it's only a window, for God's sake. Do you know what I mean? But how would I tackle that? And then I spotted the wee window at the top was open. I thought, well, would I grab that and try and pull myself up and try and get out? But as we said before we go, it's the kind of nutty things that you do you know, try to get in and out of places.
I mean, there's a few of those, like when we tried to get into Windows and stuff before, when you're actually looking at it and kind of assessing in your head, like, I could probably get through this. That's one thing. But when you're actually like halfway through trying to get through, and then you've realised you've also got a drop on the other side, or if like maybe we've had sometimes before going through Windows, and then on the other side is like nothing to land on, or it's just like a pit full of like rubble or something, and so you end up you're doing like a multi-part process of going like, right, how do I get up onto the window, through the window, then back down onto something that isn't just like nails sticking out of wood on the floor and stuff.
Yeah.
So it becomes more involved than you expect sometimes, and sometimes you have to weigh up like, is it going to be worth it? Especially if you've got to climb up something to get into a window, then don't know if you can get back out again.
Even what the buildings are made of sometimes as well, because like sometimes they look all right, and you think, yeah, little Tupperware houses. Like you said, you can grab on the hold of that top window. But sometimes some of them are so rickety. Yeah. Sometimes you literally just got to go in without touching anything.
Luke, you had the side of the wall almost fall off and land on us trying to get through a window at a little church thing before. It just like came loose, a whole piece of stone. You would think would have been fine, but like just even that was just the only handhold, and suddenly that just came loose. And it's like it just adds even more problems trying to get in places.
That's the thing. You can't really trust the building. You know, Kate's from Chicago. I'd say San Francisco the last time I was over Chicago. I've noticed many explosive investigators have been confronted with quite scary violent teens or men looking for fights, drugs, because it seems to be a trend at the moment. It's something we've never really had bother with. I don't think we've ever had bother with anybody. Locations.
We've come across a fair few sort of like drunks or like people going, "Oh, what are you guys up to? What are you doing? Oh, are you filming?" Right. You know, but like, we've never been threatened or like anything like that.
It's never had anything malicious anywhere. Like anywhere we've ever investigated, it's like we always say, as soon as people come over, I think the automatic thing to think is, "Oh no, what are they going to say or what's going to happen now?" But everyone that's come over and like has always been all right. They've obviously been like, "What are you doing here at 11 in the evening?" As you'd expect. But then we think the same about them. So but everyone's always been pretty cool.
Cold Christmas church, where like we saw other people turn up, and so we turned all our torches and stuff off, and so then they could start seeing us in the darkness, and then they were more scared of us than we were of them at that point. And then we ended up come over and we chatted them for a bit, and then they had loads of stories about the building and the location and everything, so it ended up being quite like a good experience in a weird way, meeting people that just were randomly about that night.
We've met a case in it's only started the past week. The film all and posted on YouTube being today. I'll need to give it a wee watch out for that, Kate. Because see, we had a group of lads partying at Hellfire Club in Dublin. The ones who knew we were there, they were okay. We've only had with a young couple. We were at Loudon-Kirk a few weeks ago, and this young couple came in. And they were asking, as you said, where was it? Laura that spoke to them. And once you told them what they're doing, they thought, oh, aye, quite interesting,
Yeah, sort of interesting rather than confronting you about it.
They tagged along. I know you guys, I've found that there's more people out there interested in the paranormal, but they'll just not say it. Until they actually meet somebody who investigates or whatever, and then they'll kind of speak up and say, oh, well, I'm quite into all that stuff, and and it's another great way to meet people. I
think I found as well is there's quite a lot of people that will be very, very. I mean, I think Luke, you've found this as well. Like there'll be people that are very skeptical about paranormal stuff, then they'll have a very minor paranormal experience, and that will change them like that, and then suddenly they want to know all about it. And then go from one extreme of being skeptical to like suddenly like, oh, what have you experienced? Like, what do I do to get rid of a ghost in my house? All this sort of stuff. And it doesn't really seem to take a lot sometimes for people just to flip.
Mm-hmm. I totally, James. I've said this to many people. I think a lot of people are just getting into the paranormal, or are interested in the paranormal. They've watched like Most Haunted or whoever, some shows, shall we say. And I've tried to say, look, it's not like that.
No.
If you want to find out about the parrot, just go out, with a small team, just a normal everyday team. Nobody, no one has got 500,000 followers or whatever, no disrespect to them, but just go with a normal team and experience it for yourself. You might go and there might be that smallest thing that happens to you personally that you cannot explain, and well, no, hold on, that's not right. How did that happen?
Yeah.
It's not that you're not trying to convert them or anything, you're not trying to shove the paranormal down their throat. You're just basically saying, go out and just see what happens.
I often find that, like, when I meet people and they get, because I've got a tattoo of a ghost behind my ear, and when they see that, they're like, "Oh, what's that for?" And then I have to explain it. It's not Snapchat. Yeah, look, I'll see if I can show you. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, a little bit.
Your elbow.
Oh, well, hang on. It's tricky.
All right, I can see it now.
See it? Yeah. Well, I say to a lot of people, like, "Oh, I got it because I do this, blah, blah, blah." And then they're like, "Oh, my house is haunted. You have to come round. Like, can you bring all your tools and all of that?" And I'm like, it's not how it works. Like, and I think that sometimes perhaps other people's perceptions of, like, the paranormal and what we do and stuff, they can often see it as a bit of like a joke or a laugh. But we always try and put forward that, no, this is serious. With, like, yeah, we'll have a laugh and a giggle off camera, but on camera we're serious people. And
like you were saying, like, people, a lot of time people see it as like a joke or whatever.
Yeah,
I always find that those are the sort of people that, as soon as, if you bring them along or you're with them when something like weird happens, they're the ones that suddenly jump to, like, "Did you see that? What do you think that was?" They're suddenly like, so I don't know, sometimes maybe that kind of aversion to it is kind of masking the fact that they just don't want to even, like, question whether something like that is possible.
yeah.
I mean, there's some people that can be, like, genuinely skeptical about it all, but then, I mean, if you're going to be skeptical about it, you're not opening yourself up in any way to kind of. I mean, I know certain people, not naming names, that, like, they've got more intense, unexplainable ghost stories than even I've got, that we've had out and about, and they'll just try and find any way to just, like, explain it, dismiss it. It's like, well, you've experienced this, surely that's something.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, sometimes the rational explanations are actually even more outlandish and, like, ridiculous than the notion that there might be something going on we can't explain.
Aye, exactly. Just slightly off topic, but links to other dimensions. The Emery catch the scores of US Congress today on UAP procedure. The truth is coming out legitimate. I never saw that cake doll, no. I don't know if any of you guys saw it, or girls. That was a business card.
We used to have business cards, but I've been saying for weeks, if not months, that we need to get business cards again. Because often when we're in a pub having a drink before we go out, pin a business card on the corkboard.
Yeah.
You know?
We did have loads. We managed to get through 1,000 business cards in about 2 or 3 years.
It's surprising, again, how many people are actually into it. We had a guy at the housing inspector came in here a couple of weeks ago to sign off in the house, and it was a young girl, maybe in her 20s and that, and I brought her in here and she seen this, and she says, "So I get it." I said, "It's a group we run, we do it." "Oh, I'm right into that. Send me look me up in Messenger and send me a link because I want to join." And that was just a housing inspector, and I had a plasterer and one of the housing bosses are knocking in. There was darkness in one of the rooms, and he was in to look, and he said, "What's this?" And I thought it was going to send me the link. And I've seen him a few times, and he'll say, "I was watching your video the other night. I watched your investigation, blah blah blah." And it's people you would never ever think of. You don't see your house inspector. By the way, I'm into the paranormal. But
I had I had a weird experience a couple of weeks ago when we were going out. I was wearing a Shadow Paranormal t-shirt in the petrol station, and some guy shouted across to me. He was like, "What's Shadow Paranormal? What's that? Blah blah." And I'm like across the forecourt explaining it to him, and he's like, "Oh, my parents are really into like ghost stuff. My nan will watch it. Like, we're gonna sit down with the family and watch you on YouTube." And I was like, mind blown. It's crazy. Like just trying to put petrol in my car, and some guys asking me about ghost stuff.
I had a wee guy. This is my claim to fame. You know, I stay in a kind of local wee town in the west of Scotland. And I was in a wee local shop one day, and this guy says to me, he says, "You're the guy off the TV." And I just kind of looked at him, you know. I said, "But," he says, "You're the guy that was on TV." So, "No, mate, I'm not on TV." He said, "I was watching you last night on YouTube." And I said, "YouTube?" He said, "I was watching you last night, history or something." So I came out the shop and I was like that, you know. I had a pen and everybody wanted an autograph. There was nobody there, you know, but just he says, "You're the guy on TV."
Luke's got some top class experience in being like photographed as if he's a celebrity god. Hey, Luke.
Oh God, yeah. This was a place we went to. I think it was last year, probably about this time last year, actually. It's just a little sort of chapel, really in the middle of nowhere.
Benedict Chapel or something.
Yeah. What is the name of it? I can't actually remember the name of it.
Something on sea. I can't remember now.
Yeah, Bradwell. Bradwell Chapel.
That's it.
But yeah, we was waiting for sort of people to come out because they was in there, and we thought, oh well, once they've left, probably we'll have the building to ourselves. And on the way out, they were just sort of photographing me like I was a sort of tourist attraction. I don't know.
they were probably, you know,
they just really gathered around you and started taking photos with you, and then it was left.
Yeah, it was like some of them were just. It was the most bizarre thing ever, and I thought, where are those photos ending up?
Aye, exactly. Or have you taken your face? Have you taken your face off the photograph and put on a bikini body or something like that, you know, and you get the and put it on the internet. I mean, I've noticed a lot of heavily Catholic countries also highly superstitious to delve into the paranormal for religion. They accept spirits in our afterlife, but don't want to mess with it. I know the church takes quite a dim view on, you know, investigations and stuff like that. You know, it's big taboo.
We've had that before. We're trying to get access to film in churches, and they don't want anything really to do with it. Like, me and Luke went into St Gregory's Church in Sudbury here, and we basically had to sort of tell them that we're filming a documentary about the location and kind of keep it low key for what we were doing, just because otherwise, like, we've just had experience with places you go to any sort of like religious site, and they're like, no, we don't want anything to do with it, even though surely if there's some proof of ghosts at the site, that would kind of help their cause. But it's strange.
I think some of them are starting to move forwards. Like, not certainly there's some that are still very much stuck in the ways like that, but I think certain sort of areas, certain places are sort of moving a little bit further into sort of the 21st century in terms of not seeing it as all kind of superstitious magic and like dealing with the devil and all of that sort of stuff. Because I've spoken to some people that sort of go to church and whatnot, and they're interested by it, and they don't sort of see it in the traditional way. I think they are sort of moving forwards with that in some areas.
Some of them are very, very strong, and it's their views, you know, it's their beliefs. You know, it's we had there's a lady, a Scottish folk singer. She's quite fair. I'm not going to name her, but I've been talking to her for a couple of weeks through Messenger about doing. She comes to a small village in Fife, and I've been talking to her on Messenger about doing a sort of documentary with her. And she was all for it. She says, "Well, I'd love to do it, blah, blah, blah." I said, "Well, here's your link, you know, have a look." And she took a look. And I said, "Well, we'll do a video call." And so I've done a video call with her, and I've actually got no words to describe it. No, I'm it's very, very rarely I'm speechless. You know, I'll talk to a tree. I don't care. You know, I'll talk to anything. But it was I went on the phone to it, and it must have been maybe an hour and a half, something like that. I came off and I said to the team, and she was going on, and I hadn't got a word in. And she must have been breathing through her backside, because I never saw her take a breath once. You know what I mean? But she was going on about it was Satan, and it was all to do with the devil worship, and Christmas was evil. It was a celebration of the devil, and we were all damned. We were going to hell, and blah blah. And I'm sitting, just talking. You try to be polite. You try to remain professional. You just want to say, you don't want to say, F off. But and she's going bang bang bang, and I says, it's been nice talking to you. She says, I really doing this. This was after I got the sermon on the Mount, no disrespect. And I really don't think it's something I could be interested in. So I came off the phone and I just sat there. Just, what the hell was that? And I says to the team, I says, right, it's not going ahead. I don't have any words to describe this woman, but she's, it was just one of these things, And the thing was, she was going on and on about Christmas. They don't celebrate Christmas because the day was Satan and it's Satan's birthday or something. I don't know. But then I was curious one day and I looked her up on YouTube and I put in her name and I put Christmas songs. And she was doing all these videos singing Christmas songs.
Well, they pay the bills, don't they?
You're damn.
Money talks.
I think Protestant/Church of England is more progressive, perhaps, but Catholic countries fear for messing with it. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, they all believe they don't want to delve into the field. But again, with Kate saying, there is a lot of people out there who are connected to the church or church goers, whatever, but they are there's that wee bit of curiosity there. Whether it's by watching ghost shows or whatever it is, they start to, something sort of clicks up here and they start to, well, maybe I'm going to watch that, and the curiosity kind of grows and grows and grows. But you're always going to get people that are going to put it down. They're going to be scared. I'm a bit of a skeptic myself. I think that's another thing I like about your team as well. You're a kind of skeptic. You're believers, but skeptic. That makes sense.
We always try and put like a logical reason behind whatever's happening.
Well, yeah, it's the thing. Like, as soon as you start getting activity in some form, I mean, it could be it's so easy to just go, that's a ghost, and just then leave it at that. But like, what exactly how it happens. What does that mean? Well. Like, what when you're getting like activity where it's like EVP or you're getting something visual, why aren't you getting like a full range of something? If it's just like ghost, it's going to have this. It's like a lot of the time it's going to be a fragment of that in some different way. I saw
that's an interesting way of putting it, actually.
I was going to say, Kate's comment that came along a little while ago saying about with the release of stuff about unidentified flying objects in like multiple dimensions and things like that. I mean, something that me, Luke, and Sophie talked about a little bit. That comment, like something we talked about before, is like whether ghosts themselves are something that's maybe outside the idea, like the typical idea of what a ghost is, like someone that's died. Maybe it's something that's like from a different dimension. It's kind of like leaking through or something like that, because otherwise it doesn't make sense. Like, we've had a lot of locations where there's no history of people that have died there. There's no reason for it to be haunted, yet you're getting activity there, which just seems really out of place.
But could that not be connected to the land?
It could, it could be. It could be. But then you think like the conditions that people usually say about like why there would be a spirit on a site, like there's some heavy traumatic thing that's happened, and then locations that we've been to before, like there's literally no history, no way you can find about any specific thing that's happened, yet you're getting really odd activity there that seems like it should have some like definite cause for like this happened here at this site, and like there would be some kind of evidence on the site that something like extreme had happened. There's nothing there. It's almost like there's you get like a little anomalies of things coming in and out of being, and it's like, well, where are those coming from if not somewhere like another dimension or something like that?
If you look at it with the land itself, it's like how many places all over the country have people, even if it's say for a 10-year period there was a small settlement, there was something there. I mean, some of the sites we've investigated of like even the hospitals and stuff, they've only been like active in terms of operating for like 20, 30 years, which isn't a long time in the grand scheme of things. So,
But
if, say, for example,
places like that, we've been to a lot of places, especially like the most like highly renowned places for activity, and we've had nothing there. So you think, okay, if it's something to do with extreme activity that's happened on that site, surely you would get it. That would be the exact place for it. But then you end up getting nothing there. So again, it comes into the idea of like, is it the condition of the time that we're there? Is it to do with like moon phases, anything like that? But when you're at a location that's supposedly supposed to be like super, super haunted, and you don't get anything there, it seems extra strange at that time. You don't know if it's down to like the day you're there and anything like this. And then
there's so much unknown.
No history of anything. It's a completely fresh location, and you'll have really strange, specific activity happen. It doesn't seem to relate to anything like extreme trauma or like an extreme event. It's really
it doesn't fit with the location, but that's what we're seeing as well. I remember that place. I can't remember the name of it now. But we were talking about the last time what we found the graves.
Oh yeah, the little like the 4 graves just in the middle of nowhere.
It's things like that. As I say, I came across one in Richmond, just beside London, in the middle of a housing estate, with half a dozen headstones, ancient headstones. And you think, well, see, it was found there, and you think, well, why are they here? Who put them here? Who buried here? What was here kind of before? I need to catch up in comments. I've got 2 questions for you, after Kate as well. Before I come to them, there's one question I need to ask you, Luke. Right, now I'm going back to the window again. I do apologise. Right? But if anybody watches this video, they'll understand why I'm asking it. So Sophie had a wee bit of bother getting out the window. James managed it fine, You were there in the one kind of position for quite some time. So I need to ask you, were you actually stuck, or were you just contemplating life's mysteries?
Me?
It's a bit of both.
Sorry.
Luke.
It's a bit of both. I find contemplation a lot easier when I've got one leg 5 foot up on a windowsill. But the thing is, half the time it's like you put yourself in a position and you think and then you don't think about what am I going to do after I've done that to get in or out of somewhere. So I was contemplating life mysteries, but through no choice of my own, just because I was in a bit of a pickle.
Thank you. I was wondering what was going through your head. Sophie, I know what was going through your head when you get stuck, but we won't go there because it's kind of personal,
Honestly, I don't mind. I got a wedgie from a window. It's the outcome of what happened. And do you know what? I knew it was going to happen, but I just knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, because I told you it was going to happen.
But in my head at the same time, I was like, no, I'm sure I'll be fine. And I was like, but what if it does happen? And but the fact that both of you were just stood there laughing and no one was helping me was the worst.
It was funny though.
But, I mean, in the guy's defence, what could they have actually done?
Crowbar.
Unwedgied me, or assisted me to kind of stand a bit to unwedgie myself. But no,
it's a learning experience for you.
I mean, how do you unwedgie a woman? That's wrong. That's all I'm going to say on that subject. I've got 3 questions for Kate and some comments. So where is it? There it's there. Question 1. Where you go to pieces of equipment for investigation?
See, I can't answer that because I have no idea what they're called. I'm terrible with the names of the equipment.
Describe them.
Yeah.
The
thing that makes a video appear. Camera.
No, the one with the disco on the stick.
Oh, the REM pods.
REM pods, that's it. Yeah, I like that one.
I've never heard the disco on the stick. That's unusual.
Yeah, now. I'd probably go same as always. Just a good quality night vision camera. To document absolutely everything that's going on.
To be fair, I like the big chunky one that you film the day footage on. It weighs a ton, but it's such good quality.
Yeah, you can just see. It's like it does pay because you can just see, especially when you're investigating the site, you could just have a documentation of everything that goes on.
Yeah.
What were you, James?
Oh, K2. I love using the K2 because it's old school and it seems to be pretty reliable, and we always have it on us. So it's yeah, I love using K2.
See, I like the K2. I know, there's a lot of different opinions out there about the K2, which is fair enough. There's 1,001 things that can set it off. And my argument to that is always, if you've got K2 sitting there dormant, for 15, 20 minutes, and then you ask something, can you make it go yellow? If you're a male and it goes to yellow and then it goes dormant again, then I find that hard to explain.
Yeah.
It seems like we've had like the most kind of like, maybe not the most, but like we've had a lot of back and forth responses directly from K2 when it's come to like communication sessions with stuff, especially when we're in the little annex at the back of the hotel place that was near Cambridge. Like the K2 was reacting exactly in time on like a frequency loop of when we were starting to actually feel sensations, then watching it happen real time on the K2. And then, were we using K2 as well when we had the stuff at Location X with the candles?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of these places have also been sort of way away from anywhere that would create any sort of man-made signals. They've been sort of isolated places as well, which makes it even more interesting. Like that's places like that, I'm completely confident using the K2 because it's like the only things that would be able to create a false positive there is anyone that's in the vicinity of it. And if you rule everyone out, everything there out, there's no reason it should be going off if you're in the middle of nowhere.
But you're always going to get. We done an investigation quick. We done an investigation one night, and I had a K2. It was quite a large white headstone. I had the K2 one end and a cat ball on the other, and the K2 was responding to what we were asking. And so I says, there was a spirit called James because it's a case we've done many times. I says, if this is James, can you step away from that black box and make that ball light up? And within, you're talking seconds. Within about 5 seconds, the K2 went dead and the ball lit up. And so it's stuff like that. I'm not saying it's paranormal, we never do, but it's just we can't explain it.
We had that at Location X where it's really strange, where it seemed like whatever was there that we're interacting with could only really operate on one thing at a time. And we talked about the idea of it was like physically having to change the frequency it was operating on to move from one object to another, which is like, you would think that would kind of work against you in the sense of like you've not got two things working exactly at the same time. But while we had one thing working and it changed every other, we had no activity on the other thing, and then we could basically ask it to move across between devices when we were asking it to, that was really strange activity. I've never seen that before.
No, K2 is one of the best things. The question: what's the most credible evidence you've had to support that spirits might exist?
That's difficult, really. It's
probably.
Yeah, I mean, again, it depends who wants convincing, really, or who. Like I've certainly seen stuff. It wouldn't be evidence because it's things that I've seen with my own eyes. That's convinced me. That's credible evidence to me. But to anyone else, the story's not anything. But in terms of stuff we've recorded, there's been so much. Again, it's like some people hear audible stuff with recorded EVP, disembodied voices, and like they don't find that credible at all. They'll say, "Oh, it could be anything," and then vice versa. Some people find audible type stuff really convincing kind of evidence. So yeah, it's difficult to choose any. We've caught a lot of good stuff. So I think possibly the Shadow at Harwich Redoubt Fort is definitely up there.
It was the thing flying across the room at the Redoubt Fort.
Was
that whole place in general.
Was that Kelvin nuclear bunker?
That might have been, yeah.
In the basement bit where we went running.
Yeah, in the basement, yeah, Kelvin, yeah.
Yeah, the infrared light just got thrown after sitting there for like 5 hours, and then it got thrown from a like placed up against the wall, slanting backwards, so it had to have been knocked off something, but it had to be pulled upwards and over, and then it's thrown into the room as well. It wasn't like it had just fallen; it had actually been moved forwards as well.
It's when something gets moved or knocked over, and there's no point, there's no wind or a wild animal or whatever. It's happened to us 2, maybe 3 times, and that's what gets me. When you see it physically moving, you think, right, well, that's moved for a reason. But there's no breeze, there's no wind, nothing. Why is that just all of a sudden moved?
I think it's all our own individual experiences as well, that we've all kind of seen things or experienced things like on our own, that then it makes it more understandable for say if James said that he'd seen something or heard something or had something happen, then I'd be more inclined to believe it because I've had my own personal experiences with stuff. So I think it definitely helps to be a believer if you've experienced things yourself, whether it be sight, smell, sound, touch, whatever.
No, you're bang on, Sophie. It's happened to me, and it wasn't anything major. Last Halloween we did a graveyard walk, and I went to one, Laura went to another one, and I was standing at a family burial vault, and I had a hoodie on, and I don't know if I was live when I was doing it, and I felt 2 tugs just with that on my left sleeve at my elbow, just for that. Now I know I felt them. I know I was there totally myself. It was pitch black, and I know I felt these 2 tugs, and it can be something as small as that totally convinces you, if that makes sense. Last question for Kate. I think question 3: language barrier when you pass over, does language become universal, or do we stick to our language or communicate? And do we stick
universal? It seems to be from what we've experienced. It's strange. It doesn't seem to matter what language you're speaking to, whatever's there, or if it's more like it seems to be based on the intent of what you're actually saying.
Yeah, and the tone of your voice as well.
Because when we went to
Yarmouth,
the Elizabethan house.
Yeah, we had that as well. Yeah, that was because you're getting into the kind of the role and you're placing yourself into that time frame of when people would have been there and kind of communicating in the same way, even if you weren't communicating exactly as how they would have communicated. It's the intent behind what you're saying that seemed to be getting, honestly, that there was some of the most surprising responses and activity we've had in recent times, just because it was me and Sophie were just sitting as observers. We could feel it in the room.
Yeah,
we have an active part within that. It was more you doing your thing around the table, and it was we could feel that everything changed within the room. And it didn't seem to be you had to be dead on what you were saying. It was more what you were saying was having some kind of effect just based on what you were meaning by it.
I think it was just like you said, the intent that you put behind things, like trying to put yourself in a position to relate with someone that's not there, but with sort of the ideas and the thoughts that they have. It's I've also thought as well about maybe sort of trying a bit more comedy or music or something, because that kind of stuff's universal.
We tried the music at Bodney. That worked really well.
Both times this worked there. We've done it. Yeah.
The Edwardian house was the second video I was going to talk to you about, actually. That was the second one. I'll just another 2 questions for you, and then we'll go into the Edwardian video, because I found that fascinating. Any collabs in the pipeline or abroad visits? I think she's meaning Chicago, maybe.
Well, I think the most abroad we'd ever get is Wales, other parts of England, because I don't think none of us can necessarily. Yeah.
Does that count as abroad, Wales?
Yeah, crossing a border, it counts.
I don't know.
You don't sound convinced.
I'll be on. I'll tell you what. I'll sit on the board about that one. How does that sound? Well,
okay.
Have you ever had experience with personal family connections and spirit?
Personally, I haven't. No,
No,
I
I
don't
haven't
think I have.
either.
So
But then, like it's hard. It's difficult to kind of interpret whether something is, because something could be potentially from a family member in spirit, but unless you've got some signifier to know exactly that is that person, it's hard to know whether it's a coincidence that it's something that's going on the kind of same route of what you would expect from someone that you know that's passed over.
Yeah.
Like unless you've got some, I mean, what would you even need from that? Like some, like their voice or something. I mean, I think your mum had something like that with a voice of one of her siblings she'd heard in an EVP. I think that's the closest thing I've seen of something like that, when you've actually like heard someone else's voice that you know captured on EVP, saying a name as well, which is related to someone.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had some, but I'm not going to get into it. It shows more about me, it's about you guys. So, the Edwardian house, I found this fascinating.
Elizabethan.
What did I say?
Different time period.
I said Edwardian, didn't I? Elizabethan house. Well, it starts with an E. So my bad. Elizabethan house.
Close enough.
I don't know where the hell I get Edwardian. I was watching it earlier on.
Lost in translation.
That's what, I found that a fascinating building. There used to be several houses ended up being built into one.
Yeah.
James, what did you feel? I know you did it with another team. Was it Paranormal Torts or something it was?
Yeah.
What did you feel? And before we get to the meeting room kind of thing, what did you feel about the building in general? Whoever wants to go first.
I mean,
it definitely had like an atmosphere there.
Yeah, it definitely felt like there was potential for paranormal. And I think because the building had been messed with so many times as well, that probably led to spirits being disturbed and things like that, which I think makes a difference. But the history behind it was just like massive. There was so much history there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just thought it was a really weird place to walk around because, like you said, the building's been messed around so much. It's like every couple of steps you were walking into what was a completely separate building at one point, and all the floor levels are higgledy-piggledy. It was just all over the place. Even like the main sort of hallway in it, where the grand staircase is, that used to be a courtyard. So trying to put yourself and try and think how this used to look is such a strange place. But I think part of it, just how much alterations and changes to the building over the years has sort of potentially I don't know, disturbed sort of energies there or whatever. But yeah, definitely as soon as we walked in, I thought it's got sort of quite a charged feeling in there.
Yeah.
You also had quite strange things there where, for instance, like downstairs, you had like a kitchen that was mocked up like Edwardian style.
Elizabethan
style down in the kitchen. It's easier to do it, yeah. You had like the kitchen mocked up like from the time, and then you had like an office off that. And then upstairs, there's a kids sort of activity area.
Yeah.
And so when you're walking into that, obviously you're seeing like kids' toys and stuff. So you're thinking, well, that would be where children would be. But then if it was houses that were put together, and that, I think that was above where the courtyard was. So it's like it wouldn't even really make sense for there to be kids in that area. But because you're seeing it as that sort of location, your mind's going to, oh, maybe there's like spirits of children or something in this area. Yeah, and then you've got so many different like trigger objects and stuff throughout that entire building, so you don't know what has been like ripped from one area and put in a different place, and what you're going to encounter.
It was I'll call it the meeting room. I found that fascinating, the amount of activity. James, you had a weird experience in that room concerning the door.
Yeah.
Well, we all both did, really.
Yeah, I think Sophie like noticed it first, and then that's when I like went to focus and try and capture that under the door, because
no, it wasn't under the door. It was a split second. You could see the door was open.
Oh, the door open. Yeah. That was really weird. Yeah, it was. yeah, I can't explain that at all, because it was so clear, and just for a second that door was open, and then sort of have to like double take it, because I was like, well, I knew the door was closed. If it was open, it would be like through where I was, so it wouldn't make any sense. So I don't know if we were seeing, maybe if I was seeing like a snapshot of what was happening at that time, if like there was something that was coming into the room at that time and I just seen the door was open. But yeah, that was really weird. That completely took me off guard.
It was going to sound a stupid question. I'm getting some. Do you guys getting a feedback from somewhere?
No, I can't hear anything.
No.
I'm getting a feedback from somewhere. It sounds.
There's sort of like a slight rumbling noise.
Aye.
Sounds like someone's joined us, like breathing into the microphone really close up.
It's weird. I don't know what the hell it is.
Are we being joined by a spirit?
Maybe that's what's going on.
Possibly some. You get all these channels, don't you? No disrespect again, but they'll get a technical hitch and they'll blame it on spirit. I know I'm getting off the subject, just when you say that, but they'll get a technical hitch and they'll blame it on spirit. You say it's no spirit, it's StreamYard, or it's YouTube, whatever it is, it's Facebook are messing up, it's no some great spirit.
I mean, it doesn't sound significantly loud, so I'm not sure it's.
Maybe someone can boost the audio and figure out if there's an EVP.
Are we bubbling? Are we bubbling? I don't know where the hell it's coming from.
I can't hear it.
It sounds like someone listening to like TV in another room or something.
Everyone else in my house is in bed, so it's not me.
My mic's just sitting on there. So.
It's totally silent here. You know, I will do, guys. I'm going to mute these one by one and see. Do you hear it?
No, I can't hear it.
It's not now. It's
Luke. It's Luke.
It's me.
It's coming from you.
I mean, it is raining outside. I don't know if that's it.
No, it's like deep sound.
It's deep rain here.
Is Vicky watching telly? Stop.
What are you like streaming on? Are you using your phone or your laptop?
How's that?
It stopped.
It stopped.
Yeah.
You're muted.
I can't hear you now.
You're still muted.
He's muted himself.
You're muted.
You're muted.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, I've taken them out now. I'm just using the audio from here. It sounds all right.
It might have been the microphone. If you've got a microphone on your headphones or something, maybe it's rubbing on the table.
Yeah, I'll just jump as long as it's stopped.
Your hair.
Well, if he's got the microphone on the earphones, then the microphone will be rubbing on his hair.
Right, stop. Let's stop now.
Okay.
It's
back to the chat.
We got rid of the ghost.
I just want to say hello to Clint, as a gentleman used to come into our chat. I've not seen him for he's not been in a chat for many, many months. Welcome back, buddy.
Hello.
So I was going to say Edwardian again. I've got Edwardian in my head for some reason. So the experience with the door being open, talk about a split second, I found that quite, that was obviously very, very weird. The shadow under the door. Now, I'm no psychic or any means or whatever, but when I was watching it, I was getting the feeling of some kind of servant.
Mm-hmm.
So servants would sometimes listen outside doors, and obviously that room was an important room. So I was watching, I'm thinking, what if it was maybe one of the servants that's kind of,
eavesdrop him.
It's strange as well, because the shadows themselves, they weren't static behind the door. It was like pacing past the door.
There's a weird bit in it. Sophie actually said, I get the impression that
whoever's near the door isn't allowed in here for whatever reason.
Yeah, because
Like,
we started having a lot of the activity once we basically like invited them in, whoever was there.
Mm.
But
The whole like experience of all of that was just really intense, and it did at one point feel like me and James were just like sat watching a play of like like Luke doing his thing, but it fitted so well that whatever activity was happening like was making sense.
I remember at the time as well, Sophie, you being like, you were trying to get your head around like what was happening in that moment, like as a call back to earlier on, like you were like, I don't understand what is happening at the moment. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Yeah, like why are we just sat on the floor like we're on a school trip watching some weirdo perform a scene from an Elizabethan play?
It's got a name,
but it just worked.
It did work.
It did work, yeah.
No bother, Kate. I'll talk to you soon, though. It did work. Look, how did you feel when the meter was going? It went up to, I think it was 4 or 5. You said something, and then it just dropped. You kind of stamped your authority on it. You know, how were you feeling when you were doing your, I don't know what you call it, play?
I tried to get into. I'll tell you, it was when we went to the Jamaica Inn. We met Karen down there, who's sort of part of the Jamaica Inn investigation team, and she was the one that sort of put the idea in my head of becoming part of where it is you're investigating. You know, play a part in the history. She said, like, when they've been places, they've played out 2 parts of an argument. In this case, the Elizabethan house, it was like the Civil War sort of thing. And I thought, well, there's not anywhere else that would be more suitable for that than to play a part from one side of that conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, all I tried to do, because I planned on doing it, I had put a bit of thought into what kind of things I'll say, what sort of would have been the thoughts of the people at the time. Obviously, you're never going to really know, but just trying to get a base understanding of it. And just sort of when I was actually speaking, just meaning what I was saying, really. I mean, all it is acting, is all it is.
Putting the right intent behind your words.
Yeah, just meaning what you say. And so I've worded things like proper weirdly and flamboyantly, but that was only because in doing that, I felt like I could get the point across of what I was trying to say more so than if I'd have just spoken in sort of casual English.
I wonder as well, like in that situation, how much of, I know it sounds strange, but like how much of me and Sophie observing that in the moment was kind of feeding into that situation as well. If you had been there on your own doing that, would the same events have happened, or did it need almost like someone to be kind of witnessing that, and you almost like dropping out from the investigation team and becoming part of the scenery, like you're becoming like a living trigger object for that area? Maybe it's something that like is worth trying in future investigations as well, just like having someone like manifesting the atmosphere that you need, or that would have been there at that time.
And it's like, what would happen if we'd have put another 10 people to sit there watching it? Would that have had any difference? Like, that's the other thing I've always been curious of. Does paranormal activity need an observer for it to happen? Like, not even just a living observer, but even a camera or something. Like when nothing's in the room, because you know how people have had poltergeist cases where they've literally come home and their living room's turned upside down.
Mm-hmm.
And like the neighbours have said, I haven't heard a single noise come from your house or whatever. Because there's no observer, does it actually get turned upside down, or does it just, and it's things
like it manifests as you like arrive back, like like a period in time is missing and it suddenly goes from one to the other.
Yeah, but there's no observer. And it's like, does an observer to events? I mean, it makes sense if you're looking at it at a quantum level.
So it's like that's getting to like quantum physics.
Yeah.
Quantum physics. I'm Scottish. Remember, I'm thinking. I know
the word. That's it. I don't know anything else about it other than sort of, but not even an armchair, more of a sort of patio garden furniture.
But It's a good question. You know, you say, do they need a witness? Because I've always wondered. I think I'd done a post on this on our page a long time ago. It might sound a stupid question, but you know, sometimes I'll get random questions in my head. They'll just pop in, and I need to I put it on the page. You know, it can be anything at all. Like, can I spirit peel a banana, whatever. You know, and I think one of the questions was, what do spirits do when we're not there?
Mm.
You know, like a stately home, if you've got spirits that are doing visitation, but are, you know, there all the time, what do they do when we're not there?
Well, I mean, even that comes down to things like stone tape theory. Is that still playing out just for the sake of it playing out over time? And then you consider things like when we've been at locations, you end up being really drained afterwards. Is that the fact that you've been there, you've acted as like an energy battery for the activity,
Like a host almost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
a host of energy.
Because we've talked before as well about the idea of locations having like a battery source that's needed to sort of sustain activity, and we've noticed that with locations that you got that people, not even us, but like other people have been to regularly, or there's like especially paid locations that have lots and lots of visitors, is it a case that because they're having so many people coming into that site and kind of expecting activity, having activity happen, does the actual energy that's allowing that activity to happen kind of get drained over time? Because we've been to locations before where you'll go there the first few times, get loads of activity. Then as you go there over the following months, that activity will drain down and down and down. Nothing's really changed aside from the fact that we're going there more frequently.
Yeah.
Are we kind of like draining the energy out? Then you'll leave it for a year or so and go back, and suddenly it's way back up, full of energy, wants to have activity happen. All sorts.
I would get back to that. I was nearly saying it again. Get back to Elizabethan house.
You got it.
When you were doing your role playing, how did you feel? Did you feel kind of empowered, or did you feel any different for your usual self?
Not only the fact that I was sort of playing a part, really.
It certainly looked like you were really like involved with it, like you were there in body and spirit yourself.
Yeah, but that was only because I was trying to really mean and get the point across of what I was actually saying. So yeah, I certainly felt different than how I normally would on an investigation. And the thing is, it could literally be the reason we got results from that was because I was at sort of a much higher energy myself doing it. It wasn't just sort of sitting quietly and talking and asking questions. I was quite, involved with it, and whether that was, it could have been completely irrelevant what I was saying or what point I was trying to get across. It could have just been that I was quite energetic with it.
There's kind of a difference as well, because like when a lot of investigators, maybe they'll go to a location and they have like a list of pre-selected questions they have in their head. They go, I will ask this question, I'll ask this question, without really having that intent of wanting an answer. They're basically saying the questions because these are the questions that I say at the location. Whereas with what you were doing, you're interacting with the location in a different way, where you're not just giving like a pre-selected list of questions and without having that kind of, I don't know, your intent at that time of you're having a dialogue and basically inviting them to come along and have a dialogue with you.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like, what is your name? How old are you? Like, just these kind of like run-of-the-mill questions. What you were doing is something completely different, where you're feeding yourself into the location. So maybe the fact that whatever was there could see that you were willing to interact in that way, maybe that was kind of drawing out the responses that we were getting.
That's true enough, because you say, James, we've that we let ourselves in, you go along and sometimes you ask the same questions, but maybe whoever, I'm taking it was male spirits that were in the room,
It certainly felt that way.
That they are, Luke standing there and he's doing his role play kind of thing, and they're thinking, this isn't what we're used to. This guy knows what he's talking about. And it might sound stupid, but I think the fact that Sophie and you were sitting there listening, maybe the gentlemen that were there are looking at you two, no disrespect, as well, he's their boss.
Yeah.
He's in charge, so he must be of some importance, if these two people are listening to him. So we'll listen to him, because the meter did go, I think it was 5 it went to, and then it just, it's as if you burst a bubble. If that makes sense.
I remember there was a point around the table as well where I said at the time, like, it feels as if you've won them over. Mm-hmm. Like whatever you were saying, I don't know if it's because they didn't really have a opportunity in any real way to kind of respond to what you were saying, aside from giving us like EMF responses and things like that. Like, because they couldn't kind of argue their point, there was no way they could kind of win. So you being there when you kind of concluded things and kind of tried to bring the room together, that was when it was kind of like bring it all together, and then they all left. And I remember saying at the time as well, as they were leaving, you went over to the door and you opened the door and you started closing the door like a little bit early. I remember thinking at the time, it was like, no, they're still, it's so weird.
It's almost like you can envision it.
They're still getting up, and they're still, it's like, I don't know if you could do this, if you had the same thing, Sophie, but it was like, we could kind of, obviously not like visually see them, but you could sort of feel the presence of people that were there and like what they were doing at the time. It's really
absolutely weird. It was, and I think we both said that. Well, we all said that it was a really strange feeling towards the end of that like particular interaction, and that, like, you know, like you said, as Luke was holding the door open, you could almost picture them actually leaving through that door, and then as Luke goes to close it, like you say, it's like, oh no, hang on a minute, like they haven't all left yet.
It's literally the amount of time that you'd held the door open, for the amount of people that I was kind of imagined that it was, it's like that's not enough time for that many people to leave the room, so you'd need to hold it for a couple more seconds. Otherwise you'd be shutting like 2 or 3 people in, so it's like you need to hold it for like a couple more seconds just to let the people out. And then to boost this, after we finished, closed the door, that was it, no more activity.
The
thing you can't convey over, and like you probably had exactly the same thing, you can never convey the feeling you get from places over on camera or describe it at all, because it's
just something that's in your head, in your body, and you can't put it into words.
It's so that's the one thing that I do kind of really find frustrating with investigating, is there's aspects of investigations you can't convey over to anyone else at all, because it's so much down to something that's indescribable, really. It's almost like an instinct, like when you're saying you could see, not visually, but the people leaving the room and the people in the room. Like, it's just that sixth sense, really, isn't it?
I mean, in a kind of weird way, you could sort of compare it to like if you're watching like on YouTube, watching like a live music performance compared to being there in the crowd. Like like you're still observing the same thing, like except for one person, like the person watching on YouTube or whatever is going to be watching it like with that kind of veil of the sensation of actually being there. So when you're actually there, like the feeling of the environment, there's so many different factors that you just don't get. So when you have people that go and watch back, even like the video we had as like our best captures or something, someone that would watch that back and go like, oh yeah, but that might be this, that might be that. It's like, well, yeah, but you weren't there to experience everything else we had leading up to that point, which really like gives you a more fuller context to like what we were experiencing at the time, rather than just going like looking at it like 3-4 times back, or like with that level of separation from it, where you're not really, I mean, you're watching what we captured, but you're not experiencing
it for yourself. It's two completely different things, being there and watching it.
Which I think with like the bigger like with the bigger shows that you have on TV, that's an issue that they run into, because they're trying to provide an experience to people of a ghost investigation, but at the same time they're having to like display it in a way that's obviously going to like bring in viewers and make money, which you don't really have that. Like when you go on an investigation, you're not getting like every 5 seconds you're getting like this happened, and like a lot with a lot of like the TV shows and stuff, they're recording sometimes for like 24-hour sessions. I mean, like Paranormal Lockdown, like they did there's like 72 hours or something, and then they condense that down to a 40-minute program. Whereas like if we're at location for like 6 hours and we have like 2 or 3 things happen, the extent of what that's going to seem like compared to if you've been there for a really long time, you've got like tons of activity, it's not going to seem on the same level. But it's just not like that. Like when you're trying to investigate for like 6 hours, the activity you're going to get is not going to probably not going to be as intense as like those programs which are literally designed to entertain, to provide like to give an idea of what an investigation is like. But again, even with those with shows like that, it's not always going to be like there's the level of like, well, have they manufactured stuff, like, whereas what we try and do is really just provide exactly as it is, and sometimes you just don't get things.
I mean, just two things over the personal experience that I totally get that 2,000%. It's happened to us. The thing one sticks in my mind is we were at Loudon-Kirk and it was a family burial plot, and it's the same place as my sleeve got tugged. And I was standing in the back right-hand corner, and on the other side of the fence, I had a strong feeling that there was a man standing right beside me on the other side of the fence. And there was that feeling you could just turn and you expect to see him. You knew he was there, he was right there, and you think, but you tell him there's nobody there. And then I watched the investigation back, and obviously watching it back, I'm just sitting at home watching it, you think, you're not feeling nothing, but you know how you felt at that time. You felt this guy's breathing down my neck, and you turn and there's nothing there.
The thing is, as well, like with that, like there's no way you're going to be able to capture something like that when it's happening in the moment. Like you haven't got a camera like ready set up next to you. You haven't got so there's a lot of stuff that we've had before in investigations. We literally just end up missing because we haven't got the exact right equipment at their exact place that it needs to be at that time. But then it's just going to have to take our word that we experienced what we experienced at the time, which is such a hard thing to kind of convey to people that are watching it.
It happened to us. We did an investigation there, and we always put our REM pod in the exact same bit at this, but it's more a monument than a headstone. But the last time we were there, we were just about to go live, and the REM pod got knocked off. There was no reason for it, we would sit in the same place every time, and the REM pod get knocked off. And it was Laura and myself. There was another guy he didn't want to be in camera. He was about 10, 15 feet away, but he heard it, and Laura and I both saw it. And we thought, well, what the hell's knocked that off? Because that's the same spot we use. And we've done over maybe 25, 30 investigations at this place, and we use the same bit. And for some reason this time, the REM pod got, knocked off it, But I mean, as you say about the TV shows, Paranormal Lockdown, we're quite close with Mark Egerton, who was in Paranormal Lockdown at Hingebrook House. He's a tour guide there. Mark's been the paranormal for 40 plus years. He was actually trained by Peter Underwood. And Mark told me that the Paranormal Lockdown saw more activity in 45 minutes than he has in the last 40 years.
Right.
And, that I'm not saying it was faker, but that's what Mark says. There was more activity in 45 minutes, if you get what I mean, Scott, than there was in my 40 plus years of doing this. And Mark works at Hingebrook. He's a tour guide there, So it does make you question, but you do, as Phantom Seeker says, you have to be in the moment. You have to be there and experience it yourself.
I'd say all of the paranormal shows that they're about at the moment, Paranormal Lockdown is honestly probably one of the more genuine ones that I've seen in recent times. Just from the fact that, I mean, we've found this before, Luke. Like when you're at location, you're filmed for 8 hours. Like Jamaica Inn, we're filming for 2 days. We're doing all sorts of stuff. We try and condense that down to a watchable amount of time. The fact that they're there for 3 days and they can condense it down to that, it's kind of incredible, really. You think, what have they not included in that episode? I mean, with Jamaica Inn, for instance, there was stuff that happened while we're at that location that, just for the runtime of having that on an episode, we didn't even actually end up including in the final episode.
With things as well, when you say condensing stuff down, sometimes it's difficult because we've caught bits of activity before, but it's trying to get across the context of it in a video.
And if you can't get that context across, then there's no point putting it in, because it just looks like you've put this random bit of footage in the video for the sake of it.
When he was doing the seance bit downstairs,
the seance bit.
There was a chair down in a separate bar area that we heard screech across the floor. We had one camera that was out of focus, pointed at us, and all there was this little bit of audio of the chair going. So it's to anyone that wasn't there, it's a bit of nothing really.
I came away from that investigation thinking that was honestly probably one of the most significant things that we got that night that I cannot explain at all. But because of the situation of how we were trying to capture it, it wasn't viable to have it in the final episode.
Yeah, it's bits like that. I've got loads of footage like that, so I'll probably post it at some point on the page. But it's frustrating because sometimes you think we've got something really fantastic, but then it's the context of it, of how you convey it to the audience. Like with that, we'd have said it had just been, we heard the sound of a chair squeaking in the next room. No one's down there, and you'd have to take our word for it.
Yeah, I mean, even during that seance as well, because there was no footage at all, was there, of the seance during the episode?
No, it was just the footage just came out really blurry. I think the light in the camera was just unfocused for some reason.
So, for instance, when we were capturing the video of that seance, the angle that the camera was at was facing towards the table where we were. Yet all the activity that we saw during that time was kind of the other side of the camera. And so, on the furthest wall away from where we were, there was shadows that are moving across the wall. We had the chair move down that area. But again, because you don't know
didn't have the camera focused on it,
and you can't predict how you're going to film that. It's like I've had a few times coming away from investigations, and people that I've known, I've said to them, "Oh yeah, we went on an investigation. We had all this stuff happen." They go, "Well, did you record it?" It's like, well, I wish we did.
Really.
We didn't have a camera pointing exactly at that place during that time, or we didn't have you're just gonna have to take our word for it.
That's it. You need to have a camera in every corner in every room. So 4 cameras per room. It's impossible to. It's happened to us. There's been stuff happened and the camera's been pointing another way, or whatever. We've caught it in audio, but we've not caught it on video, and it is. It's frustrating. And see, it's impossible to predict. Yourself, and any other. You cannot predict when it's going to happen. We've had stuff that's happened just before we went live, and you think, if I just pressed the live button 5 seconds earlier, we would have got that. But it's, and then I think sometimes it might sound stupid, but I believe that spirit has the capacity to learn. When we pass over, we don't just stay, we learn. And sometimes if they know there's a camera there, they'll stay away from it. It's happened to, it happened to us at Caldwell. We had a locked off camera, and I pressed record, and nobody touched it. And we did a live as well. Nobody touched it. And I checked the footage the next day. The camera ran for about 6.5 minutes, and then it cut off. And Sarah says to me, you sure the camera was on? I said, the camera was recording because we've got 6+ minutes. And then I thought it was after that, round about that time, that we got the activity started happening. So I thought, is it possible that, spirits turned that camera off because they don't want to be seen? Or it might sound stupid, maybe it's just coincidence.
We've had it before, though, when we've been leaving places, we've packed in, and we'll just be leaving, and there'll be something that happens then, and it's like, well, we're sort of finished now, we're just walking out. Or it could be when we're on a break, we sort of put cameras down, have a quick break in a place, and then something will happen.
I was going to say, we've had strange stuff as well, where, at the Ancient Ram Inn, where Sophie had seen a black shadow figure or something move across, but on the camera it captured it as an orb.
Yeah, like a bit of dust.
What you're actually capturing will appear as something different on the camera. It's really bizarre.
It's when you capture something and you cannot explain what it is, and you watch it over and over. The most the memorable one that we've got is it's an old staircase at Caldwell, and the camera's pointing at the staircase. We've got a ball, and I think it's a K2 meter sitting in the stairs, and just out the side of the staircase, this very, very small black shadow. No, it's not an insect or anything, because we've looked at it's a shadow, a tiny wee black shadow comes up, just kind of like that, and moves across the way, and then disappears. And it's the tiniest thing, but it's there. And I think, what is that?
Well, it's something that shouldn't be there.
It doesn't belong in the picture, so what is it?
You say that, but the last place we went to. Oh,
look different.
Oh, okay. Hello. Yeah. The last place we went to, I was absolutely adamant that I'd seen something on the camera as it was recording, and we looked back on the footage, and there was nothing there. And I was like, but I know I saw something. So it's like, had I seen something at the time, but obviously it wasn't actually visible on the recording itself.
Well, I'll tell you a very strange one. I know I'm doing a lot of chatting. I do apologise, but as a local kirkyard we go to, we've done one particular. It's the one we've done dozens of times. There's a Celtic cross headstone in this kirkyard. There's no name, date, nothing. It's just a Celtic cross. There was 9 of us there one night, and we took a photograph. Random photographs, and one was a Celtic cross, and everybody at the same time, we were looking at the photographs, and everybody at the same time saw this young girl with black hair, some kind of white dress or nightie or whatever, and peeking round the side of the cross. Now, we all saw it. We looked at the photos later, and she was gone.
So you saw it in the photo?
When we first took the photo, we were looking through, and so there's a wee girl there, and everybody saw it. That was there. And then, later on you go home, you're looking through your photos again.
Yeah.
Went to that photo, and she wasn't there. No, I don't know. I can't explain it, but 9 people saw that. Independent people saw that.
I swear we've done that with EVP before as well, where it's like, and I know you've had it as well, James, where you've been reviewing footage for ghost stops or something. You said, "Oh yeah, I think we've caught something at such and such a timestamp," and I watch through. There's nothing there. And then you'll look back at it and say, "I can't find what it was."
Yeah.
That's
with video as well. There's been stuff on video that you go back and look at it after a few times. You watch it back. It's there. It's the thing there. You go back. I'll go and show you, and we watch it. It's like it's gone. Whatever was there was gone.
And some people might think, "Oh no, it's all in your imagination. You're wanting to be, you're wanting something to be there." But it's when it's there, and other people have seen it like yourselves, and then you look back and it's gone, and you think, how?
Yeah.
How's that even possible? Whether it's video, photographs, whatever, or EVPs, how's that for something just to vanish?
Yeah, I mean the thing is, if you look at it with 9 witnesses, that's enough people in court. 9 witnesses would be quite a substantial piece of evidence. Would be almost indisputable. But when it's brought into a paranormal sense, 9 witnesses, for some reason, people don't seem to hold in such high regard. It's weird.
And they don't believe it, And I had the phone. I'm saying, look, and I showed it to her. She's there. Then later on, a couple of hours later, whatever time it was, no little girl. But we have picked up a little girl in that area. Paranormal exposures for me. They were over there, and they picked up in a little girl there, and Spike up here. The teams that we went have all picked, and we've not told them anything prior to going. They picked up on this little girl, and but we couldn't explain that one. That left us flabbergasted. You know what I mean? But I'm just noticing the time, folks. We're running over an hour and a half, and there's still loads more to talk to you about. But I'll need to bring you back again if that's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't realise that was the
That's
time.
the thing about the paranormal. You can just talk about it for hours and hours and not realise.
You can.
We often have these sort of in-depth chats when we're on the car ride home.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, 2.5 hours has gone by and we're home.
It's amazing just how we did one night, and we hadn't intended to go live, and it was about 10 to 9 or something. We thought, oh, we'll do a wee live. We'll do a wee lot. We're going and we don't have a topic or a subject or diddly. But we're on for 3 hours. And then as when you come off, you think, what did we talk about for 3 hours?
Yeah.
It's just a total blank. Basically, 3 hours. Don't know. And you need to watch it back to remember what you were talking about.
But we popped in at Rawsby Asylum with Sean. We went in there. I thought we was in there for about half hour, 45 minutes, and we've been walking around there for about 3 hours.
Yeah, time just
came out about 9, 10 o'clock at night.
It's weird, just some of the things that happen. It happened to me at Greyfriars just quickly before we wind up. I've got a draw towards Greyfriars in Edinburgh. Every time we go, I need to go, even if it's for 10 minutes, I need to get into Greyfriars. One day I went, I was through in Edinburgh, and it was a nice day, and there's benches in the kirkyard, and I was sitting on a bench, and I thought I'd just been sitting there for about half an hour. It turned out I looked at my phone, and it was like 3 hours or something. And I thought, that can't be, I've not been sitting here for 3 hours. No, but it turned out it was about 3 years. I thought, I had to go for my bus. And I was telling other people about it. He says, you must have known it was 3 hours. I swear to God, it felt about half an hour. And but time just seems to whiz.
It flies by when you're having fun.
As the clear pulled in. So that's the thing with Greyfriars. We've been there many, many times, and we've never had any activity apart from one night for a split couple of seconds. We picked up in a meal there, and that was it. But we've investigated before we knew about the ban, that is, and we've never ever had any activity. But it's a place you ever been at a location where you walk in and you feel like you're being watched straight away,
Yeah.
Greyfriars, it's like the only way I describe it is, I don't know if you've ever went to a party or something, and you walk into a room and everybody just turns around and.
We've been in a couple of clubs like that.
Yeah. Well, it'd be your hats, look, they'll probably do it, so that's understandable. You know what I mean? But it's like that when you walk into Greyfriars, you just walk in, you just feel like everybody stops and it's a brilliant place. But we'll wind it up there. As I want to bring you back, especially Sophie, because I've never heard a woman with a window wedgie or a disco on a stick. That's a good one. Cuthbert's, as they say, I said Cuthbert sits at the bottom of Lothian Road, Princess Street. Correct me if I'm wrong, Phantom Seekers. So window wedgie, disco on a stick. I need a this lady back.
It is a disco on a stick, because when you go around it, it goes and all pretty lights light up. Disco on a stick.
Sorry, it does what?
It goes and lights up.
I didn't actually think you'd do that again. I'm quite glad that you did. So where can people find you apart from Sophie's usually hanging from windows by her drawers?
We're Shadow Paranormal on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, you name it, we're on it.
Everywhere. And you will be seeing them again, folks, trust me, because, I've got loads more to talk to these guys about. And check them up. Check them up. To enjoy the chat. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Definitely go to YouTube and watch their videos, because they're really and they do the history with the paranormal. A bit like I say, I think the copy does actually, but I'm kidding.
And definitely look up the abandoned house where I get the window wedgie.
Yeah.
Aye, that's funny. And look, takes about half an hour to go out a window. And again, hat off to James. He was the most successful one in that endeavour. Feet first, as my granny used to always say. Get in there feet first. That's how James did it. Luke, I don't have a clue what he was doing, and I don't think he's. I don't think his right leg knew what he was doing, and Sophie's drawers don't even start being them. You know what I mean?
That's the window, Richard.
All I'm
That's
going to
what
say,
you're known for now, Sophie, as well.
Well, why not?
Sophie the
Take what
window
I can
wedgie. You know what I mean? But I'll keep you for a wee second or two after we come off. So that's it, folks. A big thank you to Sophie and James and the Hatman Luke. And thanks everybody for coming in and your comments and your questions. And that's us for another night. We're live again on Friday with our little Kimber season. But you will be seeing these guys and girls very, very soon. So take care. And thumbs up. And we'll talk to you soon. Cheers, now. Bye. Bye.